talk to you guys um, about slow fashion, which is this topic that I'm very passionate about. And we all are here because we want to do the difference and we also want to learn how we can achieve that. Um, so we have been discussing a lot about textile sustainability, and sometimes it's quite hard to understand what slow fashion really means, right? So we want to have the basic knowledges about slow fashion, like what is the definition and why do we do that? But before we start, let's send in the chat right now who of you knows what slow fashion really means? Do you guys have any idea? Have you been working with it? I would love to hear from you. Um, and my only objective today here is to make you question the reality that we are living on, especially regarding the fashion industry. So let's first start by defining what is slow fashion, right? So according to Domingos and collaborators, we see that slow fashion challenges the focus for a more durable product than the traditional products that we see in the markets, for example. And we also promote, local communities, local techniques, and design concepts that have no season at all, so they are timeless. Because one of the focus for slow fashion is, in fact, to keep the garments in the system for a longer period of time. And for that, we need to emphasize quality over quantity, right? This is the basic of it, but I think we should first think about why slow fashion is a thing. Why do we need slow fashion on the first place? So let's start with an exercise, right? So I want everybody to close your eyes. Let's mentalize something right now. Close your eyes and imagine a day in your own backyard. If you don't have a backyard, you can imagine, I don't know, someone who has, or a park. Um, so it's a hot day and you feel the sun in your skin. In the background, you hear the sound of trees that comes and goes, joining the sweet melody of birds. The warm breeze blows on your face and you feel safe with your feet on the grass. It's a beautiful image, right? Now open your eyes. What you see here is a scene from the Atacama Desert, one of the many places where textile waste ends up. For people in Chile, when they think about their backyards, this is the image that comes to mind. Because this is one of the products of this toxic prosperity that fast fashion brings with. Every day, there's like thousands of kilos being thrown on the Atacama Desert today. About 59,000 of tons per year. That usually comes from the global north because the consumption cycle failed, right? And this is a thing. Consumerism pollutes because the basis of this phenomenon is to get rid of things fast as possible, so we can do what suffices us, which is to consume again. And for this, I remember this very iconic phrase from the Consumer Society, a book that I really recommend for everybody, by Jean Baudrillard, which is, all societies have always wasted, squandered, expended, and consumed beyond what is strictly necessary, for the simple reason that it is in the consumption of a surplus, of a superfluity, that the individual and society feel not merely that they exist, but that they are alive. So probably now you have been questioning, okay, but what does fast fashion has to do with it, right? Well, the thing is that fast fashion and ultra fast fashion, which is the new big phenomenon in the industry right now, is that this is the main cause of consumerism, because it is based on inducing a very short period of happiness in your brain, and not only that, but to make you feel unsatisfied with your own body image, to make you feel excluded if you don't own the latest trend. And then next week, you have this one doesn't satisfy you anymore, and you have to consume again. And then it is an endless cycle of dissatisfaction with your own being, that the solution is only shopping. It's only purchasing things new. Okay, so this is potentialized with social media, of course. And but before that, let's go back to 2013 when it all started. So this is the result of consumerism, because after all, consumerism causes destruction. We are talking about these short cycles of production and consumption that is putting people and our planet at risk, both on the sides of the scarcity of material, but also for people that are really in the basis of this food chain, right? Which is usually the poorest people in the world. Once again, let's read this phrase by Aja Barber on the book Consumed, which is: the system of extraction and exploitation was built by centuries of exploitation and colonialism, which is a key word, and we are going to talk about it in a bit. The systems isn't broken at all, because this is exactly how it was built to work, to exploit or exploitation and destruction of the world's most marginalized people for the benefits of others, right? And why do we care about that? Why do we want to talk about slow fashion? Well, I think most of us here, we are in a position of privilege, right? And we have to use this position of privilege just for being here and having this space and this platform to discuss fast fashion and all the problems that fast fashion and consumerism brings. This is a place of privilege, and we have to use this space to give voice for the others, right? And we do this for people like Sadia, for example, in Pakistan, who has to fight for a living wage and for human working conditions. Because talking about fast fashion and consumerism is inevitably talking about colonialism, as I said before. We see that most part of the natural resources like cotton and leather, for example, they are not produced in the global north. They are produced in the global south, in underdeveloped countries where usually companies don't have to pay attention, for example, in very strict environmental laws, right? So these clothes are also sewn in these poor countries, and then the workers have to accept the payment that they get, right? In order to survive. And then afterwards, these clothes will be shipped to probably Europe or the US. And then once Europe, like the global north, is done with the consumption and they will not consume the amount of things that are produced, this is shipped back for the global south, which makes the situation, for example, of Chile, of Kenya, of Ghana, even worse, because at one point these materials, these products, they are from such a low quality that people don't want to wear them, right? So it is. Let's read again another sentence, guys. I really like sentences. I really like books. So yeah, the system doesn't end until we have a shift in power, because as long as marginalized people are constantly looked at as resource and afterthoughts, there will always be loopholes for exploitation. And this is, once again, the capitalist ideals, right? At its finest. We have people that want to accumulate wealth in the hands of very few, to distance and exclude lower classes, and also to overexploit the most vulnerable. So we require change because consumerism society is digging its own grave. And why do clothes become waste in the first place? Well, that's because we are living in a linear economy. We are living in a system based on take resources that usually are not replenished afterwards. Um, and these resources, as I said before, will be probably taken on the most inhospitable places in the world where producers don't need to care about environmental or social issues that can come from this production. After taking, we make products as once again for like in the places where we have cheap labor or working condition that is like close or relatable to slavery, for example, or child labor. Then these materials are consumed in a very fast-paced velocity, and then afterwards it is disposed in places like Chile. As you can realize by now, this system is not sustainable at all because we have a very limited amount of resources in our planet that we need to take care of, right? And that's why when we think about slow fashion, we think about circular economy, a type of economy, an economic system that does not include the dispose phase. So the concept of waste does not exist. But not just that, we want to keep products in the system for as long as possible and for with the highest quality and highest value as possible. So then we can also not exclude, but really diminish the take part, right? All right, so for having a circular economy, we have basically four main strategies. And these strategies, I retrieved them from the Green Deal, which is one of the plans from the European Union to achieve the circular economy until 2050. So the first strategy is to regenerate the loops. So to regenerate the loops, we are talking about using non-toxic materials, renewable energies, and the regeneration of natural ecosystems. As you can imagine, this is like really difficult to achieve because we are here talking about a system that probably is more expensive and it's not as efficient from the capitalist point of view as the linear economy. For example, one of these examples is, for example, the regenerative cotton, which is a system that transforms the production of what is considered the dirtiest crop. Cotton, to be produced, it needs an enormous amount of pesticides and fertilizers, and also an enormous amount of water, right? So if you are producing, for example, BCI cotton or cotton that is organic, you're producing probably less for the same amount of square feet, but you are producing a better material that is less dangerous from the people who is handling it. Another type of regenerate the loop material is, for example, the biosynthetics materials, which comes to replace fossil-based polyester or fossil-based polyamide. Because fossil resources, we know that they are really bad for the environment, and also they are a non-renewable resource, right? So then at one point we will run out of it. And if we think about circular economy where the waste doesn't exist, we need a material that is renewable, that can be kept in the system for a longer period. The second strategy is to narrow the loops. So to narrow the loop, here we are talking like the classic idea of efficiency, right? So is to produce more with the same consumption of energy and materials, or to produce the same amount with less consumption of energy and materials. My problem with narrow the loop, I mean, it's a great strategy because you diminish the material flow going into the system. But my problem with it is that it does not talk about the toxic compounds or the fossil energy use, right? One strategy for narrowing the loop, for example, is, for example, during the design phase, you can, for example, have better patterns in your clothes. And these better patterns will ensure the least amount of waste, textile waste and scraps that is left in the factory floor. And this is a type, as once again, you need less material to produce the same amount. All right, so then we come to our beautiful and amazing slow down the loops. So to slow down the loops, we are using and keeping products in the system for longer. As I said again, quality over quantity. We want this product to last. We want this product to be there, and so then we can have, for example, timeless design, as I said before. So the product is maintained as the highest possible state of value. And here, why do I say this? Because slow down the loops or slow fashion, for example, we usually do not include strategies like recycling, because recycling should be the least preferred strategy on keeping a garment in the system, right? One of the examples of a slow down strategy is, for example, swapping clothes or buying secondhand, or I think most of us who are here, we already have this in our daily lives, right? And finally, the last one is to close the loops. So closing and slowing down, we have a lot of they are superposed in some topics, because we are here, we also want to use the product and components and substances as well for multiple cycle. And for substances, I say that because it's really important, for example, in chemical recycling, which is a type of textile recycling that you literally transform the fabric into raw material and feedstock for bacteria, for example, that will then produce a biosynthetic or another type of fabric. So as I said, it overlays a lot with slow down the cycles, but I'm going to show you guys what is like the main differences between the two of them. And here we are talking about a circular economy. When you close the loop, then you are part of the circular economy, because here we think about that the waste does not exist. We will keep this product in the system for a long time. And recycling is actually the last possible state, not incinerating, not dumping in a landfill, but recycling. That should be the target. Today, this is not possible yet, because a lot of materials, they are what we call as complex materials, which is like they're not made from a pure material, from a pure substance. For example, it's really difficult to find 100% cotton materials in the market. You will always have a little of viscose, a little of polyester, a little of this, a little of that. And this makes the quality of the recycled material go down. Yes, so then usually what happens nowadays is that incineration is the last possible stage. One example of closing the loops, for example, is the famous or infamous, actually, because there's a lot of discussion about this, if it's doable, if it's best, if it's not, which is the bottle to fiber recycling. So you take a bottle of PET, for example, and then you recycle this in polyester. But then there's a lot of drawbacks there, because then you need more oil to produce bottles, and then if you extraviate the materials to the bottles to produce fibers, you don't produce other bottles, right? So yeah, there's a lot of discussion, and I would love to hear your perspective on this as well. So one thing that is commonly mistaken is the difference between ethical fashion, slow fashion, and sustainable fashion, right? So basically, sustainable fashion is the broad concept of that we are talking about environmental impact. We also talk about reducing resources, which is one of the parts of slow fashion, for example, waste. And also here in sustainable fashion, we also talk a lot about carbon footprint or water footprint, which is very important for natural fibers like linen and cotton. So ethical fashion, we usually are talking more on the part of like the conditions for workers. So here, of course, there is still an overlay with like sustainable fashion, because it's like inside sustainable fashion, right? Because if you think about, if you use a chemical that is very toxic, you're talking about ethical fashion, but you're also talking about like using less dangerous materials or less toxic chemicals, and then it's therefore part of sustainable fashion. And for slow fashion, here we are talking about quality, durability, clothing that will be kept in the system for a longer period of time, and that will also ensure that we consume less. Because if you have something, if you have a piece that is still good looking, still in good conditions, you will probably rethink when before you buy once again. And yeah. Okay, so you guys probably have seen this R ladder, which is like the 10 R's, right, for sustainability. We all know it; it's very known. But something that probably you didn't realize is that slow fashion is in 7 of these 10 R's. So as I said before, here we do not talk about recycling, we do not talk about incineration, would be recover, and repurpose is not even, it's also not part of the scope. But to refuse, to rethink, to reduce, reuse, repair, refurbish, and remanufacture is all part of slow strategies. Okay, so, and to talk about slow fashion, we also have to talk about DeGrowth, because DeGrowth is a big and very ambitious economical system in which we produce less and we consume less as society, but not less of the same, but less in a different way. So as I said, for the regeneration aspect, to consume products that are less dangerous for the environment, products that are less, how do you say, that pollutes less, that is safe to be thrown in a landfill, even in a landfill, for example, because it is not toxic. And degrowth, there's a big discussion if this degrowth is even doable at all as a system, economical system. But once again, this is a moment of discussion. I want you guys to give your opinion on what you think, if we can achieve degrowth one day, or not. And if we can, who should be responsible to lead the way? Because I think a lot is thrown, and a lot is a heavy burden is given to, like, as I said, poor countries. And meanwhile, we should be talking about the real causers of this problem, the real creators of these problems. And I think these should be the ones to implement this type of solutions. So I think I spoke very fast, but to finish, I would like to give you guys 3 questions that we could discuss later on. And these 3 questions were the questions that made me realize, like, why are we still in the system? Why are we still consuming fast fashion? Why fast fashion is still a thing, right? And I hope they will give you guys a little bit of enlightenment as well. And the first question is, how many new clothes can our world afford? So let's think about it. Like, how many new clothes did you buy this year? And what is the impact that this can have on the planet? And I don't want to shift here the burden to the consumer alone. I know that the consumer should not take this responsibility of changing the whole system by itself, because I mean, we are not causing the problem, right? But we are supporting, right, this system. We are buying, we are still on this, how do you say, this vicious cycle of buying and impulsive buying, right? And second question is, why do we consume the way, and better, the amount that we consume? Because this is a thing that I think sometimes we forget, that we are living in society, and everything that is out there is for a reason, right? And they have been, like, probably you guys have realized that as well. Like, once you research something like a piece, you will be bombarded with ads, with pop-ups, with emails, with newsletter, with a lot of things that will prone you to buy new, and to buy something that sometimes you don't even want and that you don't even need. And that's a problem, for example, of Black Friday, for example, because Black Friday, things usually are so low priced that you will buy things that you don't need, and things that you will not even wear. And that's a thing with clothing, you know, like, because clothing, when we talk about clothing, we have both the physical lifespan. So you have clothes that will endure for, I don't know, 10, 15 years. But you have the psychological lifespan as well. And the psychological lifespan is how many times do I want to wear the same clothes, the same piece? I think for the old schools like me, I usually want to wear as many time I can, right? But you see today, especially with Gen Zs, they don't want to appear on Instagram wearing the same clothes. So then every time they want to make a post, they need something new. And you see how this creates this cycle that like it's consumption over consumption over consumption. Okay, and the third question is, what can we as consumers do? Here, I don't want you guys to feel the burden. I don't want you guys to feel ashamed for being buying new or for like buying, even in fast fashion, like if that's what you can afford, it's okay. The thing is, can you keep these clothes for longer? Can you use it for longer and exploit all of its potential, right? I have some ideas on what we as consumer can do. For example, we can support local and independent businesses. This is one type of thing that we can do, so we can break out of this cycle. But and for example, we can, for example, consider if we are going to buy from a place that we know where it's produced, that we know the people behind these pieces, and not just people that wants to have a brand loyalty, right? And that's it. Like I think at most the main idea that we as consumer can do is to try to think before we buy. I think this is the main like mindset shift that it's necessary, you know, and it's to give a step back before you click the button and think, do I really need this? Do I really need to buy new? Do I really need to buy in this fast fashion brand where there are many scandalous notices of of child labor? Do I need that? You know, so I think that's the moment when we realize that living a slow fashion lifestyle, it's not expensive. It's actually much cheaper than living in the way that I used to live, for example, buying new whenever I need it. And well, here I have my references. I can send you guys the presentation if you guys want, so then you can read more about it. But I would like to know from you guys what you guys think, and like just general knowledges. If you guys have any question, I think Pooja is sending me some soon. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. Hello.
Hello, Pedro. How are you?
Yes, I'm great. And you?
I'm good. My name is Araceli, and I have kind of like an online store, an online boutique of slow and sustainable fashion. I've been supporting slow and sustainable fashion designers in the region. I'm from Dubai, so I guess I'm very far away from most of you guys. And I'm also Fashion Revolution here in the UAE. And I find it like here, it's there is a lot of malls, and inside the malls is everything fast fashion brands. It's very difficult to educate the people to change their ways, also because of convenience. You see, like for me and my designers, even as a collective, to have a space within a mall is a dream. Because of how expensive it can be. How do you think? Because, for example, I find this is like, on one way I'm saying, like, just buy what you need. Just don't buy if you don't need, even from our own shop. But then it's true that at the same time, when I see, for example, this week I had very sad news. One of my designers is deciding to close down. She has been doing a slow fashion for the last 5 years, and now she's deciding to close down. How can we because in reality, we are not saying people just go naked or anything of the sort. In reality,
Yes.
we are telling them just to be mindful, right? But at the same time, it has to be, we have to keep up the livelihoods of the people that are doing it right.
Yes.
How can we make it? What do you think is the magic balance, or how can we actually make it worthwhile for everybody taking this route, which is hard. It is hard, really, you know, because we are not commercial, as you say. We invest in materials, we invest in having our people happy and get properly paid and all that. How can we make it? How can we find those consumers that are able to appreciate this in a way enough, you know, like we can keep up supporting, you know, the expenses, daily expenses?
Yes, thank you very much for your question. I think like there's no magic world or magic reality that we can just like, okay, it's done, let's do it. Because this is a system that exists for a very long time. And this is basically the norm right now, right? So if we want to change the norm that people think, this is an educational work. And this is exactly what slow fashion have been trying to tackle right now, like to make people rethink the way they buy, right? I completely agree with you. Like and that's why in the beginning I was like, consumerism kills, consumerism pollutes, consumerism, because it doesn't matter if you buy secondhand if you are over consuming, right? It doesn't matter if you buy the most sustainable, if you are consuming more than you need, you're still requiring a lot of material flows to go to your wardrobe. You understand? So I think like what we have been trying to do in slow fashion and in fashion revolution and remake and many other of these movements is to teach people how they can break this vicious cycle, because this is like a way that we were taught, you know, that we were taught to like, okay, I'll just go to the shopping mall and then get whatever there and it's fine. I don't want to spend a lot of time thinking about what I'm buying. And this is also part of like, this was actually made by the fast fashion, and fast fashion potentialized that, because we fast fashion brands and how do you say, they advertise clothing as something that you can just throw away. It's like a thing that you use once and it's okay and you don't need to use it again, right? Meanwhile, if you look back then, like maybe with your mother, with your grandmother, you will remember that clothes back then used to last for a long time. And that's why people
take care of them, and they used to be made to your size. And
that's exactly why the problem with fast fashion, because now they want to produce so fast that they will produce with like the cheapest materials. And there is a phenomenon called the race to the bottom, right? Which is every brand, they want to find the place where is the cheapest place that they can produce, and then you're going to use the worst materials, the cheapest labor. And that's what I'm saying, like clothing should not be seen as disposable goods. And this is how people think today, you know? I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah.
Yes, I think Aishwarya has the microphone on mute, and I couldn't hear the last part.
Yeah. Okay, I can repeat it. I just said that like clothing should not be marketed and advertised as disposable things, because this is how we see today. Like if you buy, it's okay if you just wear it twice or 3 times, and you know, it should not be okay. And that's what we are trying to change.
It's true. And actually, even when we think of even the way we are perceiving the moment of purchasing, even like before, you would go and get measure maybe and choose the fabric and get it done.
Yeah.
And there was a co-creation and there was some time that you need to wait. Now we are into immediacy and we want everything straight away. And oh, I'm sad because I had a bad comment with someone at work. Let me go retail therapy, whatever, and I buy whatever random thing I don't need. All this is so is
Yes.
really damaging. But then at the same time, is making it difficult for the people that are doing it right. You know, Pedro, like, because like you cannot compete as a, I mean, I work with independent fashion designers. We cannot compete with Shein, we cannot compete with Zara, with H&M.
Yes,
So
I completely understand that.
it's really difficult to find
I
that
completely
balance,
understand
right?
that. But think about it. Like, this is, I think, one thing that I have in my personal life and like in my group of friends, I have been trying to change. Like, if you buy clothes from these brands, the fast fashion brands, in the end of the day, you're gonna spend much more because the clothes will not last, right?
Yeah.
So I think the most difficult thing is to make people understand that in the long run, things will it will pay off. You know, your investment on a local brand, a brand that is like sustainable and stuff like this.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's difficult. I understand that because I mean, I come from Brazil, from a very poor city, and I understand that for people, they don't want to spend, I don't know how many euros or, you know, or dollars on one piece. They want to have more. And like, but if that piece lasts for like 3 times, 4 times the same piece in a fast fashion brand, then it's worth, you know. And then like that's what we have to bring up this awareness. But thank you very much for your question.
Thank you,
I think
Pedro.
Luke had a question as well. Luke, do you want to open your microphone?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say another thing is we don't, when we purchase our clothes, we never really know where they come from. It doesn't
Exactly.
say on the clothes, the company, if you ask them where did this come from, they usually don't know. So I wish there was a policy where everything had to be tagged to show what conditions it was made under, what country this is coming from, because there's no way of knowing if we're supporting a industry where the workers are low paid or working in bad conditions, things like that.
Yes, I think this is a great point that you made, because I see that in the fashion industry now, especially for the big brands, they have been talking a lot about traceability. You know, like I see that a lot of customers, they are more interested in knowing where it comes from and where it was produced and by whom and which conditions, how much did they pay for each piece. This is something that we as customers, we want to know more, and now it's becoming more common. So the problem with traceability is that usually the big brands, they don't want to disclosure their supply chain. They don't want to show where it's being produced, right? And well, I mean, we need, as you said, legislation for that. We need people in the power to change that. And I think we have been seeing something moving forward for that, especially in Europe. But it is still like very complicated because, as I said before, most part of the clothing is produced elsewhere. You know, it's outsourced, and then who is gonna take care of that? You know, in Brazil, for example, or in Pakistan. You know, and yeah, it's a very complicated situation. But you can see that that's why, in my belief, is that when you buy local and from independent designers, in which condition it was produced, you know, because you are closer to the supply chain. And yeah, so I think this is one of good strategies for us as consumers, you know. Anybody else has any question? I cannot see the chat, so please just raise your hand or open your mic. I don't know.
Thank you so much for the amazing questions. And we can see the chat. There is this conversation flowing. It's so, we all are so in sync, alignment of our thoughts with regards to slow fashion philosophies. The movement has been propagating and we want the shift in the mindset. We run multiple campaigns across the year We do an educational campaign called the Know Your. We do our flagship campaign, which is a fashion detox campaign, wherein we invite our community to join, pledge for not buying any new clothes. So thank you for all the support. We have been seeing, so there aren't much questions on the chat, but we do have another 10 minutes. So if there is anybody who has any question, please feel free to unmute yourself. Yes, or comment and ask questions.
Or complaints, I don't know, guys. So you can say anything.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, hello, Pedro. Well,
Yes,
first of all, thank you for the presentation. It was really insightful. I really liked it. There was a question that I had regarding the R's, in which slow fashion is a part of it and is not a part of it as well. And one, it was that repurpose is not, slow fashion is not a part of it. I was wondering why.
Yeah,
R7.
that's a very fine line, let's say like this, right? But
Mhm.
usually, I think we can include repurpose, but like according to the literature that I have been reading, usually they just include repurpose in the circular, in the close the loop strategies, and not really on the slowing. But I do think that repurpose should be included, because like if you think about the repurpose, you are using discarded products or their parts, right, for a new product with different function. And I think this is the why people usually don't include repurpose on slow fashion, because you're not using clothing to produce clothing. You're using clothing to produce stuffing, or like something that will not be used as a garment, you know. And I think that's why usually they don't include, but I think it should, because if you think about, like, if you're using clothing to produce furniture, for example, I mean, it's literally the same supply chain in the sense of textile production, right? So yeah, so I think this should be also like something that we have to think about.
Okay, and I also had another question. I have been seeing like this trend that is called like thrift flipping, in which you buy thrifted clothes and you transform them into a new piece of clothing. Can this be considered a part of the slow fashion?
Yes, sure. This is actually part of the refurbish. Refurbish or remanufacture. Both of them, I think they are very close. Refurbish would be more like to bring back to the new conditions, right? But I think remanufacture would be to take parts of it, like upcycling, for example, and then this is included in the slow strategies for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, no problem.
Hi, this is Jen in Seattle. I just want to add on the repurpose. A classic repurpose of clothing was to take it and make it like into long strips and weave a rug with it. In the US, rugs were, you know, classically you'd have a floor rug done with a loom, and it would be out of these woven pieces. So it's repurposing it in a way that will last a really long time, and keeps it out of the trash.
Yes, exactly. That's a perfect example. Thank you very much for your contribution. Yeah, but once again, as I said, is a different purpose, is a different application, right? So that's why sometimes people don't include it, because they feel like, okay, we are talking just about fashion. So as the point that this material, this piece leaves the fashion system, then it's not considered fashion as more. So should it be part of slow fashion or not? And that's why sometimes people don't include. And in the source that I read, they do not include. They just include until remanufacture.
Oh, I've heard that also. I have always viewed it as if I can keep it out of the deserts in Chile by making it into a rug at home, then at least I have done something.
Yeah, but then you're talking about a much broader perspective, which is exactly oh, I think my internet is a little bit unstable. Are you guys still here?
Yes, we can hear you, Pedro.
Okay. Yeah. So then this is part of a broader perspective, which is the circular economy, the close the loop strategies, right? And in the end of the day, we are aiming for the circular economy, and the slow by slowing down the loops, this is a way to reach there, right? But I completely agree with you. It's a way to keep things out of landfills and keep out of incineration, which is also as bad as landfill. You know, even though we use it for heating or for something for other applications, we are still like burning something that should be kept in the system with recycling. And this is the main ideal, right, of circular economies, to keep it in the system and not burn it. Does anybody has any other comment?
That was a great question, Jen. Thank you so much. I can see our community has been logging from different parts of the world. Well, I did mention that if you are interested in joining the slow fashion movement as a volunteer, you need to email at people@slowfashion.global. If you want to join our global ambassador program, please email us at ambassadors@slowfashion.global. And in any which way, if you want to get involved, please DM on socials. I shared the link. Let's support each other. And before we log out, I have also shared the link of the feedback form. Please fill that up, because that is very essential for us to get better. Apart from that, yes, you will be getting the presentation via email along with the feedback once the feedback form is received on our end. Please feel free to share your social media handles on the chat to support each other, because we believe in supporting and growing the community. We always have been amplifying the philosophy of slowing down, choosing consciously, and connecting. And that's one of the reasons why our campaigns that we run are a lot about bringing the whole community together, continuing believing progress over perfection. So thank you so much, each one of you, for joining us for the workshop today. If you have any question, do DM us over here, or maybe connect on socials. Yes, I will be sharing the link once again. Please feel free to share your social media handles to support each other.
I will also share my LinkedIn profile. If you guys want to connect, we can connect through there. We can talk and discuss partnerships and stuff. We have been doing quite a lot of in slow fashion now, and we have a lot of ideas. So I would love to hear from you guys what you guys think about our new projects. And just a second, because my internet is it's not the best. Let's go. Okay, so this is my profile on LinkedIn. You guys can find me and message me there. But the presentation we will send through email, okay? Okay, so if anybody has no comments, no further comments, we can finish it then. It was a pleasure for me to have you guys around, and I'm really happy for this opportunity. Thank you, Pooja, for the invitation. And yes, don't forget to fill out the form for feedback. We would appreciate it very much. And yeah, that's it. Thank you very much, and have a great day. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, Pedro.
Hi, Pooja.
That's an amazing session.
I think people are still logging out. Okay, great. There's a person trying to log in now.
Yeah, I just saw that. Never mind.
All right, I think it was great. I think everybody liked it, and I hope I
Yes.
didn't talk too much or too fast.
No, you were
it was
just
great.
perfect.
Amazing.
You were just perfect.
So I will send you the most updated presentation. Sorry. So then you can send to everybody on by email. All right.
Yes, we'll do that. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Pedro. It was really good. I love the way, and I also saw on chat people were engaging, though did not have much questions. They did unmuted themselves and ask you questions.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, the best part is that the presentation was very clear and very comprehensive. The examples you set were very, very understandable. So we loved that. Thank you. Amazing. I'm so happy.
Bye.
Yeah.
Have a great day there, Pooja.
You too.
Bye.
Have a great day. Bye.
Oh, are you gonna stop recording?
Yeah, I'm actually, my screen is kind of frozen. I'm just trying to, can you stop recording from your end? Because I'm saving this to the